The alarm sounded across the bridge of the Resolute at 600 hours. Captain was already awake, coffee in hand, when the distress signal came through. She set down her cup and moved to the communications station. "What do we have?" she asked. The young officer at the station looked pale. "Distress call from Epsilon 7, the mining colony. Their atmosphere processors are failing." Felt her stomach drop. Epsilon 7 was a frontier colony, home to 50,000 people from 12 different species. If their atmosphere systems failed, everyone would die. "How long do they have?" 72 hours, Captain, maybe less." Pulled up the star charts. They were the closest ship, but Epsilon 7 was still 2 days away at maximum speed. She did the math in her head. It would be close, very close. "Send a message to Coalition Command. Tell them we're responding to the distress call." Within minutes, her chief engineer Minyu Park arrived on the bridge. He was a short man with quick hands and an even quicker mind. He looked at the charts and whistled low. "That's going to be tight, Captain." "Can we make it?" Minyu studied the numbers. "If we push the engines past their safety limits, yes. Maybe. We'll need to run at 115% capacity." "Do it." The response from Coalition Command came through 20 minutes later. Ambassador as appeared on the main screen. He was a tall and thin with silver skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. His face showed clear disapproval. "Captain, Coalition Command has reviewed the situation at Epsilon 7. We have determined that a rescue is not feasible." Stared at him. "Not feasible. There are 50,000 people on that colony." "We are aware. However, the nearest Coalition rescue fleet is 4 days away. Standard evacuation protocols require 96 hours minimum for a colony of that size. The mathematics are clear. A rescue cannot be completed in time." "We can make it." As made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Captain, humans have been part of the Coalition for only 5 years. With all respect, you do not have the experience for this kind of operation. The risk is too great." Felt her jaw tighten. She had heard this kind of talk before. Humans were too new, too reckless, too emotional. The other species had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. They had protocols for everything. They calculated risks down to the smallest decimal point. But had learned something in her 20 years of service. Sometimes the math didn't matter. Sometimes you just had to try. "Ambassador, we are the closest ship. We have a crew trained in emergency rescue operations. We have the equipment, and we have 72 hours. You have an impossible situation, Captain. Attempting this rescue will only add human casualties to an already tragic situation. I strongly advise you to stand down." Looked around her bridge. Her crew was watching her, waiting. She saw Lee at the pilot's station, her hands already on the controls. She saw Minyu at the engineering console, ready to push the engines as hard as they needed to go. "Noted, Ambassador, but we've got this." She cut the communication before he could respond. "Set course for Epsilon 7, maximum speed." "Yes, Captain." Fingers flew across the controls. "ETA is 47 hours if we maintain current velocity." "Minyu, I need you to shave off at least 6 hours." "On it." Minyu was already heading for engineering. "I'll need to strip some safety systems." "Whatever it takes." The Resolute surged forward as the engines roared to life. Felt the vibration through the deck plates. They were committed now. Over the next hour, messages flooded in from Coalition Command. Everyone told them to turn back. The Council of Species sent formal warnings. Other captains sent messages of concern. The mathematics were reviewed and reviewed again. Every analysis said the same thing: impossible. Ignored them all. She called a meeting of her senior staff in the briefing room. Minyu arrived first, followed by Doctor from Medical, Lieutenant Nam from Security, and Sara from Systems. They gathered around the table while pulled up what information they had about Epsilon 7. The atmosphere processors are located in the main colony dome, she said. The failure is in the central core. We don't have detailed specs, but we know it's a standard design. I've worked with systems before, Minyu said. They're solid. If one failed catastrophically, something went very wrong. Can we fix it? Asked. Maybe, but we'll need to get inside the core chamber. That means someone goes in. Frowned. The radiation levels will be extreme. I know. Minyu pulled up some calculations. I'm working on a solution. We have emergency radiation shielding materials. If we can fabricate some kind of protective suit, it might work. Might said. It's the best I can offer right now. Looked at each of them. I won't order anyone to do this. It's dangerous. Maybe more dangerous than anything we've faced before. But those people on Epsilon 7 are going to die if we don't try. Captain said, when have we ever not tried? The others nodded. This was what they had signed up for. This was what humans did. Another message came through from Ambassador Az. This time, his tone was almost pleading. Captain, please reconsider. I have seen many tragedies in my long service to the Coalition. I do not wish to see your crew added to that list. What you are attempting is not bravery. It is suicide. Took a breath before responding. Ambassador, I understand your concern, but you don't know humans very well. We don't give up. We don't abandon people. And when we say we've got this, we mean it. She closed the channel and looked at her crew. Let's get to work. The Resolute raced through space toward Epsilon 7. Behind them, the Coalition watched and waited. They had seen many species come and go over the centuries. They had seen courage and they had seen foolishness. They weren't sure which this was. But they would find out soon enough. In her quarters that night, couldn't sleep. She kept running the numbers, checking and rechecking. It was going to be close, maybe too close. But they had said they would try. And that was enough. The Resolute shook as it pushed through space faster than it was designed to go. In the engineering bay, Minyu Park watched the engine readings climb higher and higher. The numbers were all in the red zone now, warning lights flashing across every console. How are we doing? Captain's voice came through the comm system. The engines are holding, Minyu said. Barely. But Captain, we're burning through fuel faster than I calculated. At this rate, we won't have enough to get back. There was a pause, then said, worry about getting there first. We'll figure out the rest later. Minyu smiled despite himself. That was so typically human. Deal with one impossible problem at a time. He turned to his assistant, who was monitoring the cooling systems. How's the heat buildup? Not great. We're venting as fast as we can, but the hull temperature is rising. If we keep this up for another 30 hours, we might start seeing structural stress. Then we better finish this in 29 hours. Up on the bridge, Lee was plotting their approach to Epsilon 7. The colony was on a planet with a thick atmosphere and unpredictable weather patterns. Landing was going to be tricky even under normal circumstances. Doing it in a hurry with damaged engines would be nearly impossible. She ran simulation after simulation on her console. Every standard approach took too long. They needed something faster, more direct, something dangerous. Captain, I have an idea, she said, but you're not going to like it. Came to look at her screens. Show me. Pulled up her flight plan. Instead of a standard orbital insertion, we do a direct atmospheric entry. We come in steep and fast, use the atmosphere to brake, and land within 50 kilometers of the colony. That's insane, said from his station. The stress on the hull alone will be manageable if I hit the angle exactly right, finished. It's risky, but it saves us 8 hours. Studied the plan. 8 hours could mean the difference between life and death for everyone on Epsilon 7. Do it. In the medical bay, Doctor was preparing for what was coming. She had studied the species composition of Epsilon 7's population. 12 different species meant 12 different biologies, 12 different ways their bodies would react to oxygen deprivation and toxic gas exposure. Her assistant doctor was helping organize medical supplies. "We don't have enough equipment for this," said. "Not for 50,000 people." "Then we improvise," said. She had learned that word from the other human crew members. Improvise, make do with what you have, find a way. She started pulling together medical kits for different species types. The needed different air mixtures than the couldn't process certain drugs that worked fine for others. She would need to be ready for anything. A message came through on the main screen. Ambassador as again. This time he wasn't alone. The entire Coalition Council was behind him, representing dozens of species from across known space. "Captain," as said, "the Council has been monitoring your progress. We must formally object to your course of action." Sighed, "Ambassador, we've been over this. You do not understand. We have analyzed your ship's capabilities. We have run every simulation. You cannot succeed. The best-case scenario is that you arrive too late. The worst case is that you kill your entire crew in the attempt." An older alien, the Grand Arbiter Horn, leaned forward. "We appreciate your courage, Captain, but courage without wisdom is simply waste. Turn back. Accept that some situations have no solution." Felt anger rise in her chest. "With respect, Grand Arbiter, no, we don't accept that. Maybe you've been in space so long that you've forgotten what it means to fight for people, but we haven't. We are trying to save your lives," as said. "And we're trying to save 50,000 lives. Now if you'll excuse us, we have work to do." She cut the communication. The bridge was silent for a moment. "Captain," Sora said quietly from her station, "they're probably right about the math." "Probably," agreed. "But math doesn't account for determination. Get me a full analysis of the colony's systems. I want to know everything about those atmosphere processors." Down in engineering, Minyu had gathered his team. They had spread out pieces of radiation-shielding material across the floor, along with spare parts from all over the ship. It looked like organized chaos. "Okay," Minyu said. "We need to build a suit that can protect someone in an active reactor core for at least 2 hours. The radiation levels will be massive. Any ideas?" "We could layer the emergency shielding," suggested one engineer. "Triple thickness." "Too heavy. The person wearing it wouldn't be able to move fast enough." "What about the backup life support systems?" said. "If we cannibalize them, we could build a self-contained unit." Minyu nodded slowly. "That might work, but if we use the backup systems, we lose our safety margin. If something goes wrong with the main life support, we'll have nothing to fall back on." The team looked at each other. They all knew what that meant. They would be betting everything on this mission. "Do it," Minyu said. Word spread through the ship about what engineering was doing. The crew was literally taking apart their own safety systems to save people they had never met. Lieutenant Nam gathered his security team to explain what would happen when they reached Epsilon 7. "We'll need to coordinate the evacuation to emergency shelters," he said. 50,000 people, 12 species, all panicking. It's going to be chaos." A young ensign named Song raised his hand nervously. This was his first real mission. "Sir, what if they don't listen to us? What if they panic?" Looked at him. "Then we stay calm. We've trained for this. Fear is natural, but we can't let it control us. The colonists will be looking to us to lead them. We have to be strong even when we're scared." Nodded, trying to look brave. Up on the bridge, watched the countdown timer. They were 36 hours from Epsilon 7 now. The distress signals from the colony were getting worse. Oxygen levels were dropping faster than predicted. People were already starting to get sick. Another message came through. This time it was from the colony itself. A named L appeared on screen. He was the colony administrator. "Is anyone out there?" he said. His voice was weak. "Please, we have children here, we have families, someone help us." Keep her calm. Epsilon 7, this is Captain of the Resolute. We're coming for you. Hold on for 36 more hours. Can you do that? Elle's eyes widened. "You're really coming," the council said. "Forget what the council said. We're coming. Do whatever you can to extend your life support. Seal off sections, reduce power consumption, move people to the safest areas. We'll be there." "Thank you," Elle whispered. "Thank you." When the communication ended, allowed herself a moment of doubt. They were promising salvation to 50,000 people. What if they couldn't deliver? What if the council was right? Then she looked around her bridge, at planning an impossible flight path, at Sora analyzing every detail of the colony systems, at preparing his teams. They were ready. "All hands," announced over the ship-wide comm. "This is the captain. In 36 hours, we're going to do something that everyone says is impossible. We're going to save 50,000 lives. I know you're scared. I am too. But being scared means we understand what's at stake. Now we do it anyway." She paused. "We've got this." All over the ship, the crew repeated the words, "We've got this." The Resolute flew on through the darkness toward Epsilon 7. The atmospheric entry was brutal. The Resolute screamed through Epsilon 7's atmosphere at speeds that made the hull glow red-hot. Lee gripped the controls, her knuckles white, as she fought to keep the ship on the precise angle she had calculated. "Hull temperature critical," Sora called out. "We're at maximum safe limits." "I see it," said through gritted teeth. The ship bucked and shook like a wild animal. She made tiny adjustments, fighting against the forces trying to tear them apart. On the main screen, the Coalition observers watched in silent horror. This was exactly the kind of reckless behavior they had warned against. Ships weren't meant to enter atmospheres this way. The humans were going to kill themselves. Then the shaking stopped. The Resolute leveled out, gliding smoothly through the lower atmosphere. Had done it. "Structural integrity holding," Sora reported. "Some minor damage to the starboard thrusters, but everything else is functional." Captain let out a breath she didn't know she had been holding. "Good work, take us down." They landed 3 kilometers from the main colony dome. Through the viewports, they could see the colony in the distance. The massive dome that housed 50,000 people looked dark and lifeless. Toxic clouds were gathering at ground level. "Atmosphere readings?" asked. "Oxygen at 41% and dropping," Sora said. "That's survivable for now, but it won't be in a few hours. Toxic gas levels rising. Carbon dioxide, sulfur compounds, and something else I can't identify." Minyu came onto the bridge carrying what looked like a bulky spacesuit made from spare parts. It was covered in layers of metallic shielding and had multiple power packs attached to the back. "This is the best we could do," he said. "It should protect someone in the reactor core for about 2 hours, maybe 3 if they're lucky." "Who's going in?" asked. "I am," Minyu said. "I built it, I know how it works." "You'll need backup," said. He was wearing a similar suit. "I'm coming with you." Looked at them both. "Be careful, we can't afford to lose you." "We've got this," Minyu said with a slight smile. Lieutenant Nam led the first team toward the colony. The security officers moved through the toxic fog, wearing standard environmental suits. The comm system crackled with transmissions from the colony. People were panicking. Children were crying. The situation was worse than they had imagined. They entered through an emergency airlock. Inside, the colony was chaos. People ran in all directions. Some were helping others, some were fighting over oxygen supplies. The lights flickered and dimmed as power systems failed. An official rushed up to them. It was L, the colony administrator. He looked exhausted and scared. "You actually came," he said. "I didn't believe it until I saw your ship." "We're here," said, "but we need your help. Where are the emergency shelters?" "Level 3, but they're already full. We have too many people. Then we make room, show me. Young Ensign Song followed through the crowded corridors. He had never seen anything like this. Aliens of species he couldn't name were gasping for air. A mother was trying to comfort her children, but she could barely breathe herself. Felt his stomach turn. Said sharply, "Focus, these people need us." Nodded and forced himself to move. He helped guide a group to the shelters, their three-fingered hands gripping his arms tightly. In the medical center, doctor and doctor were overwhelmed. Injured and sick colonists filled every bed and lined the hallways, moved from patient to patient, making quick assessments. A child wasn't breathing properly. His silver skin had turned a dark gray. Had never treated a child before, but she had studied their biology during the flight. She grabbed a medication designed for their unique respiratory system and administered it. The child's breathing eased. "How did you know that would work?" asked. "I didn't," admitted, "but we had to try something." She moved to the next patient, an elder having seizures from carbon dioxide poisoning, then to a human with severe oxygen deprivation, then to 3 more children of different species, all struggling to breathe. There was no time to think, only to act. Deep below the colony, Minu and descended toward the reactor core. The temperature rose with each level they went down. The radiation detectors on their suits were screaming warnings. "Levels are higher than expected," said. "A lot higher." "We keep going," Minu replied. They reached the core chamber door. It was sealed shut, warning lights flashing red. Minu overrode the safety locks and the door hissed open. Heat and radiation poured out. Inside was hell. The core reactor was cracked open, spewing energy and radiation. Control panels sparked and smoked. Coolant leaked across the floor, turning to steam on contact with the hot metal. "This is worse than we thought," Minu said. He pulled up a schematic on his suit's display. "The main power coupling is completely destroyed. We can't repair it. We'd need parts we don't have." "So what do we do?" Minu thought fast. His mind raced through every system in the colony. Then he remembered something. The colony has a fusion research lab. It was shut down years ago, but the equipment might still be there. If we can get the plasma core from that lab and reroute it here, we could bypass the damaged coupling. "That's insane. We'd have to carry an unstable plasma core through half the colony." "You have a better idea." Was silent for a moment, then he said, "Let's do it." On the bridge of the Resolute monitored the situation. The reports coming in were not good. Oxygen levels were dropping faster now. They were running out of time. Sora suddenly looked up from her console. "Captain, we have a problem. The solar radiation is increasing. There's a flare building on the star. If it hits before we fix the atmosphere processors, the radiation will finish killing everyone in the colony." "How long?" 4 hours, maybe 5. Felt the weight of 50,000 lives pressing down on her. They were racing against multiple clocks now. She keyed the ship-wide comm. "All teams, we need to move faster. We don't have the time we thought we had." Ambassador Az appeared on the screen again. For once, he didn't look disapproving. He looked sad. "Captain, I am watching what your crew is doing. It is remarkable, but the radiation flare will doom this mission. You should evacuate your people now while you still can." "We're not leaving," said. "You will die with them." "Maybe, but we're going to try until the very end." Az studied her face. "I am beginning to understand something about humans. You do not calculate the odds of success. You calculate how much you are willing to sacrifice. There is a difference." "Yes," said simply, "there is." In the colony, Song found himself in a shelter full of frightened children. They were all different species, but fear looked the same on every face. A small girl, no more than 5 years old, was crying. She was with soft blue fur and large eyes. Knelt down beside her. "Hey," he said gently, "it's going to be okay." "I want my mother," the girl whispered. I know we're going to find her, but right now I need you to be brave. Can you do that? The girl nodded, still crying. Stayed with her, holding her small hand. He was terrified. He didn't know if they would succeed. He didn't know if any of them would survive. But the girl needed someone to be strong, so he was strong. All across the colony, similar scenes played out. Human crew members pushed past their fear and exhaustion to help strangers from worlds they had never visited. They improvised solutions to problems they had never faced. They refused to give up. Because they had said they've got this. And they meant it. Minyu and found the abandoned fusion research lab on level 7. The doors were sealed with years of dust and neglect. Minyu forced them open with a crowbar from his tool kit. Inside, the lab was dark and cold. Emergency lights flickered on as they entered. Equipment sat covered in protective sheets, untouched since the lab closed 5 years ago. There, pointed to a large cylindrical container in the center of the room. That's the plasma core. Minyu approached it carefully. The core was about the size of a person, encased in magnetic containment fields. Even inactive, it was dangerous. Active, it could power a small city or blow one up. We need to activate it and transport it to the reactor level, Minyu said. That means carrying it through collapsing tunnels while it's generating enough energy to vaporize us if we drop it. Sounds like a normal Tuesday, said, trying to joke, but his voice shook. They began the activation sequence. The core hummed to life, blue light pulsing inside the containment field. Minyu checked the readings. Power output was stable, but the containment field was old. It wouldn't hold forever. We have maybe 90 minutes before the field fails, he said. Let's move. They lifted the core between them. It was heavy, awkward, and terrifyingly unstable. Every step had to be careful. One stumble could mean disaster. Above ground, the situation was deteriorating. Oxygen levels had dropped to 38%. People were passing out. The medical center was overflowing. Doctor had been working for 6 hours straight without rest. Her hands shook from exhaustion as she treated patient after patient. Was going into respiratory failure. She administered emergency drugs, but they weren't working fast enough. Come on, she whispered, don't give up. The breathing stabilized, barely. Doctor appeared at her shoulder. You need to rest, you're going to collapse. Can't stop too many patients. If you collapse, you can't help anyone. Knew she was right, but there was no time. She moved to the next patient. In the emergency shelters, Lieutenant Nam was trying to keep order. More people kept arriving as sections of the colony were sealed off. They were running out of space. A fight broke out between two groups competing for oxygen supplies. Stepped between them. Stop, fighting won't save anyone. One of the aliens, a large, pushed back. You humans brought false hope. You can't save us. You're just making it worse. Felt anger rise but pushed it down. We're trying our best, but we need you to work with us, not against us. The backed down slowly. Around them the crowd watched, waiting to see what would happen. Young Song was still with the girl. She had stopped crying but held his hand tightly. Other children had gathered around them. Found himself telling them a story to keep them calm. He didn't know where the words came from, but he kept talking. And that's when the hero realized that being brave doesn't mean not being scared, he said. It means being scared and doing the right thing anyway. The children listened, their large eyes fixed on him. Back on the Resolute, Captain made a decision that would haunt her forever. The ship's life support was struggling to maintain oxygen levels in the colony's emergency shelters. There wasn't enough power. Sora, she said quietly, shut down our life support systems, reroute all power to the colony. Sora stared at her. Captain, that means. I know what it means, do it. That gives us 4 hours of oxygen, maybe less. Then we better finish this in 3 hours, shut it down. Sora's hands moved across the controls. On screens throughout the ship, crew members saw the life support indicators go dark. They understood what it meant. The captain had just bet all their lives on completing this mission. There were no complaints, no protests. They had all known this was a possibility. They had accepted it when they said they've got this. Ambassador as watched this happen and felt something he hadn't felt in centuries. They didn't have a word for it. Humans called it awe. "Captain," he said softly, "why? Why sacrifice yourselves for these strangers?" Looked at him. "Because someone needs to try, because it's the right thing to do, because we said we've got this and we meant it." "But you are going to die." "Maybe, but at least we tried." As closed his eyes. In his long life he had seen many species, many acts of courage, but he had never seen anything like this. Humans were either the most noble species in the galaxy or the most foolish, perhaps both. Deep in the colony, Minu and were halfway to the reactor when disaster struck. A section of tunnel collapsed behind them. Debris rained down. A large piece of metal struck suit, tearing through the shielding. Minu shouted. Fell, the plasma core slipping from his hands. Minu grabbed it, barely keeping it from hitting the ground. His arms screamed with the effort of holding it alone. "Go," gasped. His suit was compromised. Radiation was pouring in. "Leave me, get the core to the reactor." "No, we do this together." "Minu, you can't carry both me and the core. The math doesn't work." Minu looked at his friend. At the plasma core at the tunnel ahead was right. He couldn't carry both. "I'm not leaving you," Minu said. "You have to," smiled weakly. "Go save 50,000 people. I've got this part. I'll seal the tunnel behind you, buy you time." Tears ran down Minu's face, inside his helmet. "Go." Minu went. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. He heard the explosions behind him as collapsed the tunnel, sealing himself on the other side. The radiation would kill him in minutes. But it gave Minu the time he needed. Minu reached the reactor chamber alone. His suit was failing now, radiation warnings screaming at him. He had minutes left, maybe less. He connected the plasma core to the damaged systems. His hands were shaking, both from fear and radiation sickness. One wrong connection and the whole thing would explode. Sora's voice crackled through his comm. "Minu, I'm reading your suit levels. You need to get out of there." "Almost done," he said. His vision was blurring. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Minu, you're dying." "I know." He made the final connection. The plasma core surged to life. Power flowed through the system. The atmosphere processors began to restart. All across the colony, fresh air started pumping into the sealed sections. Minu collapsed. His suit had failed completely. Radiation flooded his body. "It's done," he whispered. "Tell the captain we've got this." Then everything went dark. On the Resolute bridge, alarms blared. The atmosphere processors were online. Oxygen levels were rising. The colony was saved. But Minu's life signs had gone flat. Gripped the arms of her chair. They had done it. They had saved 50,000 people. But the cost was higher than she wanted to pay. "Medical team to the reactor level," she ordered. "Find Minu and bring them home." She looked at the countdown timer. They had 2 hours of oxygen left. The solar flare would hit in 3 hours, but the atmosphere processors were working now. The colony would survive. They had done the impossible, but felt no joy, only the heavy weight of command and the price of keeping promises. The medical team found Minu in the reactor chamber 12 minutes later. He was unconscious, his suit completely destroyed, his body ravaged by radiation. They rushed him to the Resolute's medical bay where Doctor was waiting. She looked at the readings and her heart sank. The radiation exposure was massive. By all standard medical knowledge, Minu should already be dead. "Prepare the emergency treatment," she ordered. "Maximum dosage of anti-radiation medication, and get me every piece of medical equipment we have." Doctor said quietly, "The damage is too severe." "I don't care, we're trying." For 18 hours, fought for Minu's life. She used techniques that didn't exist in standard medical textbooks, combinations of treatments that no one had tried before. She improvised, experimented, and refused to give up. On the 19th hour, Minu's eyes opened. "Did we," he whispered, "did we save them?" Smiled through her tears. "Yes, all 50,000, the atmosphere is stable." Her smile faded. "I'm sorry, we couldn't reach him in time." Minu closed his eyes. One life for 50,000. The math made sense, but it still hurt. 3 days later, the colony of Epsilon 7 held a ceremony. The colonists had cleaned up the main plaza. Flowers from a dozen different worlds decorated the space. All 50,000 survivors gathered to honor their rescuers. Captain stood with her crew. They were exhausted, still recovering from the ordeal. Young Song stood now, no longer the uncertain rookie. Lee had earned respect across the coalition for her impossible flight maneuver. Lieutenant Nam had received commendations from 6 different species for his leadership during the evacuation. Minu stood with them, still weak but alive. He wore a black band on his arm for the friend who had given his life so others could live. L, the administrator, spoke first. 3 days ago, we thought we were going to die. The coalition had given up on us. We had given up on ourselves. Then humans came. They ignored the odds. They ignored the warnings. They said they've got this. And they meant it. He paused, emotion thick in his voice. One human gave his life for us. We will never forget him. This colony lives because of his sacrifice and the courage of every human on the Resolute. The crowd applauded. It was a strange sound, different species with different ways of showing appreciation, but the meaning was clear. A mother approached with 3 children. One of them was the little girl that had comforted. She ran to him and hugged his leg. "You told me to be brave," she said. "You were right. Being brave means being scared and doing the right thing anyway." Knelt down and hugged her back. He couldn't speak past the lump in his throat. The ceremony ended with a moment of silence for. The entire colony went quiet, 50,000 beings standing together, honoring one human who had died so they could live. Back on the Resolute, the crew prepared for departure. The ship had been repaired, fuel tanks refilled by grateful colonists. They were ready to go home. But first, Captain had to face the Coalition Council. She stood in the communication room as the council appeared on screen. Dozens of alien faces looked at her. Ambassador as sat at the front. Grand Arbiter Horn presided over them all. Captain Horn said, "The council has reviewed your mission to Epsilon 7. What you accomplished was unprecedented." "We did what needed to be done," said simply. "You ignored direct orders from Coalition Command. You pushed your ship beyond safe limits. You risked your entire crew on a mission that every calculation said was impossible." "Yes, sir." "And you succeeded." Horn leaned forward. "Captain, in 3,000 years of Coalition history, we have never seen a rescue like this. The survival rate was 100%. Every single colonist survived. This should not have been possible." Ambassador as spoke up. "I watched everything, Captain. I saw your crew sacrifice their own life support to save strangers. I saw your engineer carry a plasma core through collapsing tunnels. I saw a young ensign comfort alien children while he himself was terrified. I saw things that I did not think possible." He paused. "I was wrong about humans. We were all wrong. You do not calculate acceptable losses. You calculate acceptable risks to yourselves. There is a profound difference." "Humans are reckless," another council member said. "They take unnecessary risks." "No," as said firmly. "They take calculated risks that we are too cautious to attempt. They see problems we call impossible and ask how instead of why not. They are exactly what the Coalition needs." Horn nodded slowly. "Captain, the Council is creating a new rapid response division. Ships and crews trained for high-risk rescue operations. We would like you to lead it." Was surprised, me. "You have proven you can do what others cannot. You have shown leadership under impossible circumstances, and you have earned the respect of species across the coalition. Will you accept?" Thought about it, more missions like this, more impossible situations, more risks, but also more lives saved. "I accept on one condition. My crew comes with me." "Of course." The communication ended. Sat alone for a moment thinking about what they had accomplished. One life lost, 50,000 saved. Would have said those were good numbers. She found her crew in the common room. They were sharing a meal, swapping stories about the mission. Minyu was laughing at something said, even though he still looked tired and sick. Was showing pictures of the children too. Doctor was sleeping in a chair, finally getting the rest she needed. They looked up when entered. So said, "I heard we're getting promoted. We're starting a new division, more rescue missions, more impossible situations." "Sounds perfect," Minyu said. "Though maybe next time we can save people without almost dying." "Where's the fun in that?" joked. They laughed. It felt good to laugh after everything they had been through. "I want you all to know something," said seriously. "What we did at Epsilon 7 was incredible, but it came at a cost. Gave his life. We all almost died. This work we're going to do, it's going to be dangerous. If anyone wants to transfer to a safer assignment, I'll understand." The crew looked at each other, then spoke for all of them. "Captain, with respect, we knew what we signed up for. We're humans. This is what we do." "We've got this," added with a smile. The phrase had become something more now. It wasn't just words. It was a promise, a commitment, a declaration that they would try even when others said it was impossible. Word of the Epsilon 7 rescue spread across Coalition space. Other species began requesting human crews for difficult missions. The phrase, "We've got this," became known in 100 languages across 100 worlds. Some aliens still thought humans were reckless. Others thought they were crazy. But everyone agreed on one thing. When humans said they've got this, they meant it. 6 months later, the Resolute launched on its first mission as part of the new Rapid Response Division. The ship had been upgraded, the crew expanded, but the core team remained the same. As they prepared to leave dock, Captain gave one final speech to her crew. "They're going to keep calling us reckless," she said. "They're going to keep saying we take too many risks. Let them. We know what we are. We're the ones who show up when everyone else says it's impossible. We're the ones who try when others have given up. Not because we're fearless, but because someone has to be willing to try." She paused and looked at each of them. "We lost on Epsilon 7. We'll always carry that with us. But because of his sacrifice, 50,000 people are alive today. That means something. What we do means something." The crew stood at attention. "Now let's go find someone who needs our help." The Resolute pulled away from the dock and accelerated into the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, someone was in trouble. Someone needed help. Someone needed a crew crazy enough to say, "We've got this," and actually mean it. And the humans were coming. Because that's what humans do. They see the impossible and decide to try anyway. They calculate how much they're willing to sacrifice rather than how likely they are to succeed. They refuse to give up on people, even strangers from distant worlds. The aliens had learned something important about humanity. When humans say they've got this, they don't mean it's easy. They don't mean it's safe. They don't even mean they'll survive. They mean they'll try. And sometimes, just sometimes, trying is enough to make the impossible possible. The Resolute flew on into the endless night, ready for whatever came next. Because they've got this.